Welcome to the community where passion for life and healthy sexuality connect beautifully and easily. I'm your host, Amanda Ammons, and my goal in life is to help you thrive. And a huge part of that is your sex life. Your one life was meant to be amazing, sex included. You most likely haven't been shown this, but I'm here to tell you you're beautifully and intricately made. Made for more, made for the best. However your journey brought you here, join me in a new conversation about one of the most amazing things ever created: intricate, passionate intercourse. Together, let's break the shame cycle. Let's learn how to please and be pleased. Let's fight fear, find freedom, and freaking have fun. Welcome to the Passion Connected Show. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the last episode of the Passion Connected podcast for this year. I have loved everything that has gone on this year. There has been so many good things coming out of this podcast. I've had so many of you reaching out to me and just saying how helpful this is, and it makes me that much more excited to move into 2022. I have so many good things planned and I can't wait. And with that, I'm doing a lot of scheduling. I'm doing a lot of reassessing. I'm figuring out, I've got my planner. I'm putting everything down that I know that needs to happen. And this episode goes along with that. So if you are ready to plan out your 2022, if you are ready to set goals, this is such a good episode. Today, we are talking about tips for scheduling sex. Now, first of all, there's some pushback when it comes to scheduling sex because a lot of people feel like, I want sex so much right now. Why would I ever have to schedule it? Or I don't really know what it's supposed to look like. How should I know how to schedule it? Or they feel like it should just be natural and they should just have sex whenever it just comes up and about, which all of those things are really valid. But I feel like scheduling is not competing those things. It is complementing those things. I have had so many people reach out to me with questions that regard sex in other areas, such as, I just feel like we're too busy to have sex, or it is so hard to have sex when you're so tired after kids, or I feel like my husband or I want sex on different levels. Like one of us wants sex more and one of us wants sex less. And every single time those questions come up to me, it really has a lot to do with scheduling. I feel like you can still schedule sex and combat all of those problems while also keeping it really fun, keeping it natural, and coming together in such an amazing, exciting way. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to cover why would you schedule sex and how to do it in a way that just keeps everything alive, keeps it fun, keeps it fresh, and keeps it easy so that there's no pressure around it. So this isn't one more thing that you're having to do, but just something that flows into your schedule really naturally. So first, why would you even schedule sex? A lot of it comes back to the fact that there are two people in this relationship. There are two of you having to come together. You are having to figure out two lives and how they work together, and you're meshing something that is incredibly important and pleasurable and also very personal to each of you. And you have to figure out a way how to do that together. A lot of times I get this comment that, well, my husband wants it more than me and I just don't want it as much. Or I want it more than my husband and he just doesn't want it as much. And there is so much that can be wrapped up into that. And that is so hard for couples because both people feel in some way inadequate or wrong. To the person who doesn't want sex as much, they can feel like, well, maybe I'm just wrong in this. Like maybe there's something wrong with me. I should want sex more. Or maybe I don't find it that pleasurable and I need to do something different. Or I feel like I am not pleasing them enough. I'm not being there for them enough. And also they can have resentment because of all the pressure that they feel and all of the times where they are just not wanting it and not sure how to handle, do I say yes? Do I say no? If I reject them, how are they going to feel? How is that going to affect our relationship? If I say yes, am I just going to resent them? Am I going to not enjoy it? And on the other side, you have the person who really wants it and they're feeling like, I don't want to pressure them, but also I really want it. Or When they feel rejected, it's like, am I not good enough? Why don't they want me? I thought that we were going to have sex more than this. I feel dissatisfied. I don't know how to handle this. If you schedule sex, you are overcoming that because you have found a way outside of the moment to figure out what sex is supposed to look like between the two of you. Because the problem happens when one person is wanting it and the other person is not, or one person is high energy and the other person is exhausted. And in that moment, it's like, how do we handle the fact that one of us wants it and one of us doesn't? So you completely ex-nay that out. So by scheduling it, you are helping the person who doesn't want it as much be ready, be prepared, get excited. And to the person who wants it a lot more, they're feeling like, I know this is coming and I can get there and we can wait for that. And then we can do it together and we can both be on the same page. In that same way, another reason why you would schedule out sex is because of differences in schedules and busy schedules. Again, you are bringing two people together and you both are leading together lives, but also very separate lives. And schedules can get really crazy. You guys might not find as much time together. Your schedules might be off. One person is working one set of hours, the other person is working another set of hours, or you have a stay-at-home mom or dad and they're exhausted by a certain time at the end of the night when the kids go down and they're like, I am ready for this. I'm ready to have alone time, or I'm ready to have go down time. And then another person who may be working and just feels like, I've come home and I either don't want to do this or I'm really excited to see somebody. So when you schedule sex, you make sure that it is happening at whatever frequency that you guys agree on in your week or your month or your days or however you want to schedule it in. And you have it there and you have that time set aside and you are both prepared for it. And it competes busy schedules too, because a lot of times you can be really tired, like I mentioned. And when it comes time for what would regularly be like, all right, we're in bed, we should have sex, or we haven't had sex in a while, or whatever. With busy schedules, you can get really, really tired. But if you plan it in there and plan out, you know, the day that you're not going to be quite as exhausted or you're not going to want to be going to bed early, if you put it in there on the calendar and combat that busy schedule, then you know you're going to have time for sex. Now, the problem with this, again, is that a lot of people feel like that just takes the fun out of it. It takes the spice out of it. So how can we do it in a way where we're going to agree, we're both going to feel the same way, or we're going to put it on the calendar in the same way, or it's going to work well for us as a couple, and also to keep the excitement going? First of all, people think that it's going to take the fun out of it. And I can see that. I can see why they feel that way, because when you first start off a relationship, you are just so high on that energy and you just want sex more oftentimes. And you feel like, I'm just ready for this. And it just comes naturally and we have time for each other. And then life can get in the way. And so they think that scheduling it is going to make it some business-like appointment instead of some movie-like moment. But I find it adds more anticipation. It makes it that much better. I like to think of it this way. It is really sometimes hard for me to get my day going, get really excited about what I have if the day is just mundane, if I'm just doing the same old regular things. Who wants to just get up and, clean and cook and work and all of the stuff when it's just a normal day, versus when I know I have some really exciting appointment that I'm going to meet up for, or I have a trip that I'm going on, or I know somebody is coming over that I've really been wanting to see, or we have a birthday party, or we have something going on. I get higher energy. I get really excited. It is easier for me to get my day going, to wake up and be ready for the day, because I know I have this thing waiting for me, whatever it is. A hair appointment, meeting up with a friend, or my own personal time that I have, going on a trip, like I said, or something along those lines. When I have those things in place and on my calendar, I get so excited for them. I anticipate them in the same way that I do sex. When sex gets put on the calendar, when I know it's going to happen, I can get myself in the right headspace. Instead of feeling like I am caught off guard by my husband wanting sex, or feeling like I have to pressure him into it when he's not ready. If it's on the calendar, I start thinking about, okay, this could be really fun. What do we want to do? How do I want to make this spicy? How do I want to make this a little bit extra fun? What am I going to do to make sure that I'm totally ready and prepared? I can't wait for this time. I like to think of it as its own date night. And maybe we're just having sex, or maybe we are turning it into a date night. But if I have it set there, I can start thinking about getting ready for it, like an exciting date. And if I'm not feeling ready for it that day, and I'm feeling like, man, I really wish this wasn't on the calendar, having time and space to look at it on my calendar gives me the opportunity to pre-work through my mindset. And I can get myself into a place of being excited for it. I can work through whatever pushback it is that I have, or if it's just really a time that I need to reschedule, I'll reschedule and I'll talk to him about it and be like, I know that we were going to do this, but I really need to postpone it. I'm feeling too crazy, or there's too much going on, or I'm too tired, and we really need to find another time for it. But when that happens, I do let him know, here is another time for it. Here is when I will be ready, instead of pushing it off and just not making that commitment with him. Second of all, when you plan it, it gives you more time to think through what you actually want to go down. I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but when you have that space and that time, you can think about what you want to actually happen. You can pull out your sex deck, which if you don't have one, you really need one. I will link it in the show notes. I've already talked about all my favorite products in another episode, which I will also link here if you haven't listened to that one. But get out your sex deck, get out some fun toys, get out your lingerie, whatever it is that's going to make it really fun or special for that evening, or what you guys are in the mood for. And you're able to spend some more time planning when you have it on the schedule. And with that, I just want to mention, think of this as a sex appointment with your spouse, not some sort of business meeting. Don't put it in your calendar as sex in black ink with ... after it. Put it in your calendar like sex in all red and all caps with hearts next to it. Excited for it. Be proud of this. Be excited and proud of having that amazing time. You are setting aside time for your relationship and for you, and it is something to be so pumped about and so proud of yourself for. And lastly, I want to just cover some real quick tips on how to actually schedule it. If you have never done this before, it can feel a little awkward, but it is so easy. First of all, just talk about the idea of scheduling together. So I don't know if you guys have a Sunday night meeting like my husband and I, or you have a meeting once a week. If not, I really recommend doing that. It's so good just to sit down and hash out what's going on the next week. But if not, just find some time where you're talking over coffee or over dinner or before you go to bed at night, and just talk about, okay, we would like to make sex either more frequent, or we would like to make it easier, and just bring up the idea of scheduling with them and see what they have to say. And from there, I would recommend two things, really truly based off of who you guys are as a couple. Number one, if you feel like you guys are really, really at odds with your scheduling of sex, or with how sex goes down, or your libido, or your schedules in life, I would really recommend both of you scheduling it together so that you're coming together. Figure out a middle ground of frequency, figure out good times in your week to do it, and kind of make a few rules based on if someone is pushing it off. Now, I don't want this to be something that's rigid. I don't want you to feel like this is some sort of commitment that you are making, like you have to do this, otherwise XYZ. It's more just this thing where you are respecting each other and respecting each other's time and boundaries and efforts. And when you make rules of like, okay, we can push it off, but like we can only push it off for so long, that gives each other the ability to be flexible while also feeling like this actually is going to happen. And both sides can really feel more at peace and more at ease and excited for what is on the calendar. Second, if you are more like a couple who is, there's one person who really, really, really wants it, like all the time, and another person who doesn't, you still should talk about that scheduling. But sometimes, just depending on who you are as a couple, the person who doesn't want it quite as much can be the person to put it on their own calendar if the other person who wants it all the time would like to just have this sort of spontaneous, inspired sex and they don't really want it on the schedule. And for the person who doesn't want it as much, they themselves can figure out a good frequency or middle ground for where they're at in conjunction with their partner, but they can put it on the schedule themselves just for their own mindset and for their own heart so that they are ready for it. And I would suggest if you are the only one putting it on the calendar, if you are the one doing it, prepare yourself to initiate. Make a commitment to yourself that I've put it on the calendar. I'm the one who knows about this appointment, even though my spouse doesn't. And so I am going to be the one to kind of give out those hints, make some moves towards my hubby or moves towards my wife, make some moves towards my spouse. I am going to initiate it because I know that this appointment is here, even if they don't. So those are the tips that I have for you. I think coming together as a couple and figuring out what sex is going to look like for you guys for the next year is so good. So take these tips, go have a great conversation, and figure out how you guys are going to be just that more amazing together. I love you guys. I am so excited to start the new year with you, and I will see you next week.